think the reason Liz originally didn't speak is just because it was anxiety on our part about being able to, the ambition of trying to make her work in all the ways we wanted to make her work, and that would be easier than having her talk. We weren't going to have the player speak either, so this whole notion of a conversation between a first-person player character and a third-person character, it's just not, there's not a lot of great examples of that really working, and so I think we were just had a little stage fright.
Well, I guess our philosophy for Elizabeth early in the development side was quite different from where we ended up, right? We started out trying to make her a scripted mute, and I say scripted in the sense that we would have our designers script every moment of her work. It just wasn't as interesting or as fascinating to the player as what we wanted it to be. So we sort of rolled into a more systemic end with still some scripted parts to her behavior and a lot of handcrafted work in there too, but giving her the opportunities to do things in the world where we couldn't have done with a scripted setup.
Going from that mute version of Elizabeth, the Gibson Girl Elizabeth, to the bubbly young version of Elizabeth, and then the more mature and experienced Elizabeth that we had at the end of Infinite, I think was a fairly painful way of going. I would say that one of the things that helped the most in getting from that mute Elizabeth to the new Elizabeth was discovering a way of making sure that she would be on screen as often as possible. If Liz isn't on screen or talking to you, she may as well not exist. It's the old stage thing. If you're not on stage, then it didn't happen. It never happened. So one of the things that we spent a lot of time working out was how to make sure that she was on screen as often as possible without her getting in your way, because that's one of the cardinal sins of having any companion character in a game. It was a difficult problem, but once we'd figured out that we could give her information about where you were likely to be headed, then she could kind of act more like a friend to you in the world.
The amount of information that you need to get across to the player, even all the stuff that, as an animator, I don't even have to deal with. Look over there. Let's go this way. I think the thing is up here on the balcony, and I think about if she couldn't talk, if she couldn't say these things or even allow for some of this story to take place while you're exploring the area. Hey, I'm opening these crates now. I'm searching for some more salt, but she's telling me a little history of the Hall of Heroes. The experience gets richer because she has that knowledge that she can push on you. And if she was mute, I think that you would miss a lot of that stuff. I'm not saying it can't be done, it'd just be a different story. You would be more focused on the visuals of what she was doing because she would need to be on screen for her to have any meaningful impact. Whereas a Liz that can talk doesn't have to be on screen. The player has much more freedom to look around and be their own speed, but still be aware of her presence and understand what she's doing. That early test, the one where she grabs the player forcibly and points, it was some giant mechanical doll that we had at the time. I realized, as a gamer, I don't want Liz grabbing me every 5 seconds to, grab the controller out of my hand and force me to look in a direction. That should be player choice. So those are other factors involved in not only giving Liz a personality, but gameplay issues of how often do we want the player to physically have to have Elizabeth on screen when they're dealing with looting and combat and all the other things that you're doing in a first-person shooter.
Are you real?
I'm real enough.